What's going on, everybody? John here with Mock Motorsport, and today we are going to be doing something very cool to the Project BRZ. That is right, if you've noticed behind me, oh, we have a couple of racing buckets that we are going to be installing. Now, some of you are probably asking, why the hell are you going to get rid of that really awesome interior that the BRZ TS comes with? And I agree, I normally wouldn't want to get rid of it for a street-driven car. But because this car is primarily driven on the track and then a little bit of street use, at my last track event at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, at the GP track, it's a very fast track, a lot of long sweeping corners, really high speed corners, and I found myself just basically being thrown around in the car everywhere. I had my left leg like just buried into the dead pedal, and then of course my right hip was just always pressed up against the center console. So in a track or racing environment, this obviously isn't ideal when you're trying to fight yourself or trying to fight to keep yourself in a safe position in the car while handling and maneuvering the car and shifting gears and hitting the brake and the throttle and looking around you and everything else. So needless to say, that's obviously not the most ideal setup. So what we've done is I've opted to go for some racing buckets. I've been told from a lot of people that you can actually save seconds a lap by having racing buckets in place and proper harness. But there's also the safety aspect of it all as well. It goes without saying that not only is the bucket itself going to keep you more firm and more planted into the vehicle, but I've got Sparco 6-point harnesses that we're going to be installing as well. I do have a Hans device that I will be using, and so because racing isn't my 24/7 gig and I don't get paid to actually do this, it's important that I keep myself safe in all circumstances so that I can continue to earn an income, because according to my girlfriend, I'm worth more alive than I am dead. So that being said, we're two Recaro racing buckets. So the driver's side, we're going to go with the Pro Hans. Now, a lot of you are probably saying that's a bit overkill, but I like it. It's a very, very solid, very planted seat. They call this a full containment seat, and the reason they call it a full containment seat is because it is very deep. When you sit in it, you are sucked in. You are not going anywhere. And again, because this vehicle is going to be primarily track driven, I'm not too concerned about the wings on the end here getting in the way or for visibility. The car is going to get a cage installed very shortly as well, so yeah, I'm going all out. And then for the passenger side, I went with the Profi SPG XL. The reason we went with the XL is because if you're basically anything bigger than 5'6" and anything larger than about 180 pounds, the regular Profi just does not accommodate people. And I have passengers at times and instructors that come with me, people for ride-alongs, and the majority of these people are not midgets. So I opted to go with the Profi XL. We've got, as I mentioned, the Sparco 6-point harnesses. So I'll put my coffee down for a second, and my Tim's, because I'm Canadian. So with the really trick, can't remember what they call this, harness coupler here. It'll come to me, but in any event, yeah, so we've got the Sparco 6-point harness, and for the seat bases themselves, I opted to go with a little private company out of California. It's Pro Car Innovations. If you haven't heard of them, they're really big into the Honda scene. They make a lot of Honda parts, so everything from seat rails to adjustable wings, and to they do like spherical bushings and control arms and all that sorts of stuff. But when it comes to the seat rails themselves, they have applications for not only Hondas, but for Miatas, for the BRZ and FRS, and I think they have some Porsche applications as well. These things are absolutely fantastic because they're very low. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but you'll probably see it when I install it in the car. But I've seen the Sparco one, and they don't sit nearly as low. So this is a very, very, very low base. It has a lot of provisions here for obviously different things. You can, mount your sub harnesses to this if you want. They don't really recommend mounting your lap belt or lap harnesses to this, but there is a provision here for your seatbelt buckle if you wanted to maintain the OEM use. But when you put the rails on it, I have here that are still packed up. They're pretty heavy duty unit. You know, it allows them to slide around in place so that there's an abundant amount of adjustability. Really well built and constructed pieces. They even include this little bushing set, so when you mount your seats to the rail, you don't actually have to mount the side rails directly to the seat and scratch them all up. They come with these really neat little bushings, and then of course they come with their little plaque, the little PCI plaque there. That's, essentially all the hardware that you need. And the way the rails mount to the base is using these really unique sliders. So I don't actually have a handle slider like you would in the OEM seat. It uses these channel sliders, and I'll try to show you what that's like because I've already mounted it on the passenger seat so you can get an idea. And so anyways, so that's the setup there. These, you know, they sit very low, and honestly, they're no more expensive than your traditional Sparco or, you know, Planted or whatever other brand you're looking at. They're very reasonably priced. I believe they retail for around $215 US for both the side rails and the bases, which is a very reasonable deal if you ask me. And what I really like about them is they mount extremely low into the vehicle. So when you're using larger seats, like the Profi SPXL, or sorry, the Profi SPG XL, or the Hans Pro, these are taller seats. So when you're mounting them in a car that's got, you know, low headroom as it is, they're an ideal seat base to use for that. So we're going to get into assembling the hardware, putting it on the seat, and I'll update you shortly. Alright, so I've set up everything on the ground here so you guys can kind of get a better idea. So basically what I've already done is I've already installed the little PCI logos. Now obviously that's optional, you don't have to put those in the rails if you don't want to. And according to PCI's instructions, there are several different ways that you can mount the side mounts. So if you have a wider base seat, you basically want to mount the mounts so that they're this way facing. So this side is facing the outside of the seat as opposed to the inside of the seat. Or if you have a narrow base seat, you can mount them this way and have this basically face the inside and then the rail on the outside. In this case, I found that you get, regardless of the seat, you get the most adjustability mounting them with the angle facing outside. That's what I find. And then you can mount them either frontwards or rearwards like this, depending on your how close you need to get to the pedals or how far back you want the seat. So and then I've got a standard hardware kit. It's a standard Sparco hardware kit. I mean, it all works the same even for Recaro seats. And you're gonna basically, because we're using the bushings that came in the kit, we're gonna be using the longer. It comes with two different lengths. Where you're going to be using the longer ones so we can get into the threads. Now when I install them, I always put a little bit of thread lock. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I believe in thread lock, and in this case we're going to be putting some thread lock in here because we don't plan on removing the bases once it's installed. So we're going to get to it. I'm going to install this and I'll show you an update when we go. Alright, so as you can see, we've already installed the one side. I'm just going to show you the process for the next side here. So we've put our bolt through, we've got a washer, and then we've got the provided spacer. And basically what you're going to want to do, and if you haven't noticed already, I don't know if you can see, there's already thread lock in the hole from the manufacturer. I always put a little bit more, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to slide this out, slide that into place like so, and you're going to hand tighten these in as far as you can, because remember the base of this is fiberglass, so we don't want to overdo it. And then what I do is I basically hand tighten it until I feel it gets snug, and then once it gets snug to the point that you're using the T-bar handle hand tightening that, my Allen wrenches come like this. I just put it in here and give it just like a quarter turn, and that's it. And then I'm good with that. And as you can see, we've already got the other side installed. And then we just got to put it on the base. So now that we have the side rails on, we are now going to be mounting the base itself. I've already started using the provided hardware. It's actually a really trick setup, including a nut, a washer, and then we've got this welded nut, basically, or welded bolt rather, to this plate that just slides in the slot here. These channels, it's got a little tab on it that keeps it locked into place. You then take the provided spacer and washer and nut, thread it all on. What this does is it allows you to slide the seat up and down, but you can also slide it side to side for small adjustments. So I'm going to finish fastening this up. A little bit of a pro tip: keep all of this hardware relatively loose, because when you go to put it in the car, it is definitely going to want to move around on you, and you are going to want to have it loose enough so that you can make the adjustments you need, because you're likely going to have to unbolt this from the car and then snug it all up and put it back in. What I found is there's just not enough space in here once this is actually mounted into the car to get to the hardware. The trickiest part, and I'll show you right now, is in a situation like this where you've got one of your rear bolts, okay? This guy is obviously covered by the rail. So if you're in a situation where that's where your rail is going to be, you're going to want to get clever and slide that bolt into place ahead of time so that you can thread it in. Well, let's see how this goes. And go. Alright guys, so we're moving on to the next step here, and that's removing the seat out of the car. Now this process itself is pretty straightforward, but there is some things you're going to want to know before doing this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to disconnect the battery. And the reason you're going to want to disconnect the battery is because we're going to be disconnecting some plugs underneath the seat, specifically the seat heater, the seat belt indicator, and we're also going to be disconnecting the seat belt, or sorry, the seat airbag. So you're going to want a pair of pliers. I'd use or opt for a longer, slightly slant nose needle nose pliers. Use the impact just to make life a little bit easier getting the seat bolts out. And you're going to want a 12mm socket, deep or shallow, doesn't really matter, an extension and a ratchet. And the reason I use the extension and the ratchet is because what I like to do is I like to crack the bolts loose first using my own arm strength, just to get an idea as to how snug they are in place. So the first thing we're going to do is we're obviously going to move the seat back. And what you're going to find, because I've already done the passenger side, is these bolts are actually in really fucking tight. Alright, so crack that one loose there. And again, you're going to do the same for all four. There we go there. Oddly enough, the passenger side felt like they were way tighter. Or maybe I was just weaker. And then you're going to slide the seat up, fold the seat back, giving you access to the rear ones. See what I mean? These things are tight. Holy shit. Oh, there we go. Man, I tell you. I don't know what these things are torqued to, but they're torqued to fucking never go anywhere. Alright. This one, if I can get a good position on it. Alright. It's kind of in an awkward spot. There we go. As you can tell, that was a lot more work than I wanted it to be. Alright. At this time I'm going to remove my rear mat because it's not likely I'm going to use it anymore. So once we've got those loosened, take the impact and just fire them out, making life a little bit easier. All right, so once you've done that, you can tell that the seat is just about ready to go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna, oops, I'm not gonna raise the seat. Well, you can if you want. We're gonna tilt the seat. We're gonna just do one of these. So now that we've done this, I'm gonna bring you guys underneath so you can see. All right, I hope that you guys can see this, but if we kind of look over here, you see you're gonna have to unclip this guy, the carpet, from this little rail here. You just kind of pull on it, and it should just unclip. Sometimes they're a little bit tricky. There we go. So once you've exposed that, we're gonna unclip this little clip here. And if you can see that, there's a little clip here. This is why you have the pliers. And why I go for the longer ones, because then I can get in here a little bit easier. So once you, this looking way more awkward than it should be. Why did I even want to do any of this? Fuck you. There, it should take. And voila, it's out. So now that we've got, position you straight there, guys. All right, so now that we've got all that, pardon my sweat, basically what you're going to want to do is kind of free everything out of the way. You're going to want to take the seat, position it. And you're going to want to be gentle because you don't want to scratch anything in your here. And now that we're, make sure your headrest is all the way down. That makes a world of difference, as I've learned. Just carefully. Hold on. Of course, the seat rail's stuck. And out we go. Ta-da! All right, now that we got the seat out, installing the seat is essentially the reverse process. So the one thing I want to point out is this yellow connector here. So this is our SRS seat airbag harness. I'm going to get a resistor and I'm going to show you how to make the delete connector for this. So we're going to head on over to the electronic supply store. We're going to pick up some resistors. Now, I've seen kind of mixed information on the internet. Some guys are saying use 2.2 ohm. Other guys are saying 3.3. In this case, I've opted for the 2.2. If you go to BRZ Seats website, the resistor they recommend for the BRZ and FRS, or 86, is a 2.2 ohm. So I've seen guys use both on the forums, so I'm going to go with the 2.2 ohm. We're going to solder some pins to it, and we're going to heat shrink it, make it look pretty, pop it in here, so we don't get an airbag light. Now, if you're replacing the passenger side seat, you're going to have to do the same thing. However, the passenger side has the seat occupancy detection sensor. Some guys will peel the occupant detection sensor out of the seat, so they'll actually take the seat out, disassemble the covering over the seat, and remove the occupant detection sensor and peel it away from the seat heater. But some guys have had some issues, sometimes they've broken, or if you ever want to put the stock seats back in, you're kind of euchred. So I'm actually going to go back to my high school technology courses and take my multimeter, read the impedance in ohms and the circuit, and see if I can develop some sort of resistor or something that will maybe emulate the occupant detection sensor. All right, so we're going to put the new seat back in, or I should say we're going to put the new seat in, and away we go. All right, so as you can see, we've got both seats here. So we've got the original seat out of the car, and then of course we got the Recaro bucket. Now what you'll notice is if you're going to retain your factory seatbelt, which I intend to for street driving, for the occasional street drive, I'm also going to be running a harness. We're going to remove the factory seatbelt, okay? So we're just going to remove this bolt right here. We're going to have to pop off this side clip, or sorry, this side cover. And we're going to have to trace the cord beneath the seat and basically disconnect it from the clips. It is a bit of a process, but we're going to bolt it back up to this guy so that we can retain the stock seatbelt function for the time being until we get the roll bar installed into the vehicle, and then we can utilize the harness on a regular basis. All right, let's get started. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pry here, and then once you pry here, this comes out. You're going to want to insert a screwdriver in here and just pull down and pull away. And as you do that, of course, you need 2 hands for this operation. You can still see it. Put a screwdriver in here. Kind of pry. As you pry, it just kind of comes out. And that's it. Just push that out of the way. And now we've gotten that out of the way. You can just sneak this out of place. Pop this cover back in. We won't fully pop it back in just in case. And now you're basically going to go here. You're going to disconnect it from here. You could do this one of 2 ways. You could either pinch the clip here and force the clip through, or if you can get access to the zip tie here, you might be able to sneak your way beneath and unlock the lock on the zip tie and just slide it through. My recommendation is probably just pinching the clips, removing it whole with the clips and everything, and then just remove the harness, and away you go. Alright guys, so I've just flipped the seat upside down. We've removed the seatbelt buckle from the driver's side, and I've installed it here. What you're going to notice is I actually installed it using one of the provided eyelets from the Sparco harnesses. So this way, I've just reversed the thread, or reversed the orientation here. I've bolted this guy up using a washer and lock washer. I obviously got some hardware from Lowe's, some grade 8 hardware. And then put the eyelet on the opposite side here so that I could use this for the actual harness. Now the thread that they use on the eyelets themselves, provided by Sparco, is actually the same thread that's used in all the provisions for your seatbelts. So what I plan on doing is for the other side of the lap belt is I'm going to remove the bolt that sits in here. I'm going to remove this guy and just thread the eyelet in its place. And then that way I can retain the seatbelt, and I'll have the lap straps fixed at the factory seatbelt points. So according to the manual that I got with the 6-point harness, the angles should be correct, and again, that's utilizing the factory seat harness locations or seat belt locations. So in theory that should be okay. Once the roll bar goes in its place, the shoulder straps are going to go and connect to the roll bar. And then for the submarine belt, or the sub belt between your legs, we're actually going to probably fix one of the eyelets to these guys here. I haven't completely decided yet, but I was thinking about fixing an eyelet here. We're going to obviously feed the belts through here, and then we can fix maybe 2 eyelets and then strap the sub harnesses to here. You can use the base for the sub harness from what I read. Some guys will actually run the harnesses right back, and they'll just create a bar. They'll just fabricate a bar that goes to the factory bolt hole locations, and just a bar across, and then wrap it around the bar. So anyways, please feel free to comment if you feel that there's a better way. I could just wrap it around here, you know, without actually using the eyelets, just wrap and just strap it down. But the whole purpose is, I guess, the location of the belt has to be in line or slightly rearward of the chest. That's what I understand. All right, let's get it bolted in. Alright guys, it would appear that I've got everything all bolted up, and what you want to do at this point is you basically want to just kind of snug everything down and then test fit. So you're going to want to get in and out of the car. You're going to want to test your pedal feel and just see how your feet are in relation to your pedals. You're also going to want to check the tilt of the chair to make sure that you've got the appropriate angle on a fixed back chair. It's important that you're comfortable because if you're racing you want to be comfortable. Now I have to admit, going with a full containment seat like I did with the Profi Hans Pro, it's a commitment because, and I'll show you, as I've discovered, I'm a shorty, okay? I'm not a very tall guy. I'm 5'6", so at best my seat is basically, with the seat bracket, is all the way up, okay? So we're as far front as we're going to be able to go. I've got everything bolted in, and as you can see there's plenty of room in the back there. I'd say good amount of room. But because of the angle that I got the seat at, which is extremely comfortable by the way, it basically it eliminates a little bit of your pedal throw or your leg reach, I suppose. So basically I find myself right maxed out. I've got a good amount of pedal movement or leg movement, so I'm reaching all the pedals good, but the problem is getting in and out. So whereas before I never had to touch the tilt of my wheel, every time I get in and out I'm gonna have to tilt the wheel up, and then once I'm in I tilt the wheel down. So I may, at this point, I may raise the back ever so slightly. I haven't quite decided yet, because I do like the angle that's on the seat. Like when you look at it, it's got a fairly significant angle, but then as it approaches the top it's pretty flat. And as I said, when you're sitting in it, that's kind of the most important thing. You want to be able to feel good when you're sitting in it. So I may just come up one. I don't know if that's going to make the world of a difference, but it might make just enough of a difference. Other than that, the visibility is good. I've got plenty of visibility through the front. Again, remember when you're using these bucket seats, naturally, you're going to be sitting a little bit lower than stock. That's kind of the purpose. They want, you want to lower your center of gravity. So for everyday street driving, this is obviously going to be a little more difficult as you eliminate a little bit of your view, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, I probably have gone down maybe half an inch, and again, I can easily adjust that by raising the back base of the seat and bringing it up ever so slightly. But we'll give that a try and see how that goes. But all in all, I'm really pleased with the way it feels. I mean, I'm snug. I'm not going anywhere in this seat. So we're going to install the passenger seat. I'm not going to really record the installation of the passenger seat. It's fairly straightforward. It's essentially the same idea as installing the driver. But once everything's all installed, I'll definitely update you guys with the full installation. I don't plan on installing the passenger bucket just yet. I'm going to wait until I have the roll bar in place. And then once the roll bar is in place, I'm going to install the passenger bucket. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to remove these seats twice. So it's just a lot of work, But anyways, so we've got the drivers in. I've got an autocross race on Sunday rather, which is why I wanted to install it, and I figured an autocross would be the best place to, test it out and see how it feels. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll update you with the roll bar installation as we go along with that. And as always, like and subscribe, and I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. I can't ask for any more, to be honest with you. You guys have been great. So that's it, and tune in next time, and by then I'll probably have it'll be the roll bar installation, and then of course the other seat. All right, thanks guys. I'm gonna record. Don't tell me to shut up. Yeah, I want it on film that you're verbally abusive to me. Shut up. Okay.